Good evening, everybody. Thank you very much for joining us today for our UCAN talk show. We're chatting about how to get the most out of UCAN for endurance sports, daily workouts, everyday energy, meal replacements, and a whole lot more. I'm Varun Sriram. I'll be chatting with you all over the next 40 or so minutes and joined, as always, by my colleague, registered dietitian Seth Bronheim. Seth, what is happening?
Hey, Varun, doing great.
So Seth and I are coming to you from opposite ends of the country. I'm here in the Bay Area. Seth, you are somewhere just outside of New York City. So hopefully
Yep.
we can cover both coasts and everything in between over the next 40 minutes or so. And for those of you that are new to these sessions, we like to keep these interactive. We really are here today as a resource for you all to help you understand how to get the most out of UCAN and all the different ways to utilize the product. So any questions, feel free to send them our way in the chat tab on the GoToWebinar app. And you can also, if you are interested in coming on live with us, we will see if we can navigate the technology and bring a couple folks on to chat directly with us. So if you do ask a question in the chat, you may get a message from me asking if you'd like to come on and ask the question live. So we'll see if we can do some of that, but we will also provide you with a lot of different anecdotes and science and information on how to get the most out of UCAN. So without further ado, for those of you that are new to UCAN, or even those of you that are familiar with the product, we kind of want to spend a couple minutes just going over the overall theory behind our product and what's so unique about the way UCAN delivers energy. And from a nutrition standpoint, a lot of what people are doing in terms of how they fuel their day or fuel their workouts, it's really resulting in an energy crisis. Seth, you've had background both being a dietitian and also having trained and worked with athletes and everyday individuals from a training standpoint. You've kind of seen it all. In your mind, what are some of the most common mistakes people are making in terms of how they view fueling their body for energy?
Well, I think the first thing is that a lot of folks who think, oh, I'm just going to go out and go for 5 or 6 miles and go for a run, they don't fuel before. A lot of people wake up and they're like, oh, I'm just a wake up and go type of person, but a lot of people are ravenous afterward, which is why we speak to a lot of customers who basically say, I don't eat before I run, but man, when I get home, I open the fridge and I'm just ravenous. Um, And then there's the people that are trying to do good things for their body, but they're not reading labels. And a lot of popular bars out there have a lot of added sugar, or they have hidden ingredients that are going to spike your blood sugar. Like in a lot of the gels and a lot of just energy bars, there's things like maltodextrin or hidden dates that's going to spike blood sugar and not cause that the energy they need. And when I was working with clients, I just personally training them, I just thought we were wasting time when they would take in a bar with sugar before, because a lot of their goals were weight loss. But even if you want steady energy during exercise, it's really going to cause a drop in energy within the first 15 minutes of exercise when you have a sugar-based bar before, and even half an apple sometimes. I know I know it's an apple. I know it's nature's fuel, but it's still got a good amount of sugar in it that can cause that drop in blood sugar too.
So you're going to hear us talk over and over again about this idea of controlling blood sugar and avoiding these spikes and drops, and it's really fundamental to what UCAN does, but it's also fundamental to so many things, to so many functions in our body. When we can keep our blood sugar steady, like Seth just alluded to, we can keep our energy levels steady. So in the context of exercise performance or even just managing your energy levels throughout the day, that's an extremely powerful thing. And then Seth, you were speaking a little bit to it from a weight loss standpoint. For somebody that's exercising, whether it's endurance sports or daily workouts, and they've got a weight loss goal in mind, what is the impact of dumping these sugars or high glycemic carbohydrates into your body right before you exercise, like so many of us are used to doing? We're not just talking sports drinks here, right? Seth, you mentioned things like apples or bananas, which are people perceive them to be healthy foods, but in the context of body composition or energy maintenance, they might not be the ideal choice. And then again, even things like bagels or cereal. What is the effect on our ability to burn fat and fat loss when we consume these traditional carbohydrates that give us that quick burst of energy prior to a workout?
Well, I think so even before we talking about fat burn, let me just take a step here in that when we have these foods, whether it's you're trying to have a small bowl of some type of low sugar cereal, but it's still got some starch in it that's gonna kind of give you that quick energy. The fact is that we overeat so much because of the hunger in our brains when we overeat these types of carbs, whether it's cereal, whether it's a half a bagel, whether it's someone who's during who's a cyclist and they're having some type of like pretzel or something like that along the way, some type of energy bar, and people, and that's really what happens. I talk to so many of our customers who are hungry for the 6 to 8 hours the work day. They end up getting to like this noshing mode where if they go for a morning run or a morning workout, they're just kind of snacking all day, and they're kind of trying to replace all the calories they lost because their blood sugar dropped, but also these foods cause us to want to eat more. It's just the truth. Um, so that's one big thing, is that you can overeat because of these types of foods. That's a big thing. And then the other thing is that from a just metabolic standpoint and how the body uses these fuels, when you take in these types of fuels, whether it's an energy bar, whether it's a bar with honey in it, whether it's a waffle. I know the waffles are a big craze right now. The fact is that you raise your blood sugar and your body goes, hey, burn the calories you just ate. Don't burn fat right now. Wait till later, and you burn through those calories, and you're blocking your ability to burn fat. And when we really want to tap into and burn fat as fuel for exercise, these foods are really just inhibiting your ability to get the ability to burn fat.
Yeah, and Seth, you often hear things, these types of sayings like you can't outtrain a bad diet, and I think for most people intuitively they understand that if you're exercising a lot and eating a ton of junk food and pizza and cheeseburgers and whatever all the time, eating highly processed foods and not eating adequate vegetables and adequate protein, that certainly that's going to inhibit exercise. But I think for a lot of people, they're not doing it to that extreme, right? They're still can be struggling to see the benefits of exercise, but they may kind of perceive that they're doing most things right, but it's really that nutrition, both pre and post workout, immediately surrounding your workouts, that can truly have a negative impact on the results you're able to see, whether it's from exercise performance or simply body composition and fitness, right? It's not so much that folks that are struggling with this are doing everything wrong, but they could be doing some strategic thing wrong at very key times.
Yeah, I think the biggest concern we have is, I mean, we had a new customer right into us, and he had been having he's a two-time Ironman, and every day during the workday at noon he has a goo. And he said after, it's been a couple of years, and you don't really get your blood sugars tested too much until you go to see the doctor, your annual checkup. And he did his annual checkup, and he said his blood sugar was 130 milligrams per deciliter, and above 126 is pre-diabetes. So, even if you're doing everything right, the fact is that if you're having these sugar-based fuels, and people look at a gel, they think, oh, energy. They might not think it's sugar. They might not realize the impact it has on your health. But he's bonking during his workouts. He's got this elevated blood sugar. So it's the fact, over time, if you use these products, even if you eat healthy outside, you're really at risk for some of the risk factors of whether it's diabetes or metabolic syndrome. And it's and even if you're exercising, you can't out train it. You really need to fuel properly. And our biggest concern is that people are taking in too much sugar during exercise.
Seth, just to kind of piggyback off that point, I was speaking with a triathlete who this morning who hosts well known podcast in the triathlon world, Zen Tri podcast. His name is Brett. He's a triathlon coach as well, and he was telling me that after years and years, yeah, he's recently switched over to UCAN, but after years and years of fueling with sugars, it was becoming such a crutch for him, even for his daily workouts throughout the week, where he felt like he just couldn't get the energy to those workouts without taking that shot of sugar because he was so used to that feeling. Then he started switching over the last several months and started using UCAN prior to those workouts. And he said, both from a fitness standpoint, but also just the energy he would feel once he got his body away from craving that rush of sugar. His workouts were just so much more powerful, and he was sharing some of his power numbers with me. And said he PR'd on a recent workout where he used UCAN in terms of his power numbers and how long he was able to sustain it because he was no longer relying on that quick burst of sugar to get him going, but then kind of falling off the cliff with that sugar drop, half an hour later. So it's definitely something that I think a lot of people kind of rely on as a crutch. And like you said, we're trying to get people to move away from that. So really the way we're doing that with UCAN and the various products is the carbohydrate that we use in our product. So the carbohydrate in UCAN, we call it super starch. And we'll talk a little bit here in a moment about the origins and what exactly the ingredient is. But let's talk about what it does. So what you're looking at on the screen right here, it's basically comparing our superstarch carbohydrate, which is the red line, to maltodextrin, which, like Seth mentioned, is the quote unquote complex carbohydrate in majority of your, gel products or your sports nutrition products in the endurance world, your Cliff Bars, Power Bars, Goo products, Hammer products, Infinite Nutrition, you name it. All of these products are essentially using the same carbohydrates. So, they don't work any differently. You're just deciding, what flavor do I like better? What format do I like better? But they're all designed to give you that very quick spike in energy. And then they require repeated fueling over and over and over again throughout the course of your workout because you have to compensate for that drop in your blood sugar levels. Now, when you're constantly dumping sugar into your body throughout exercise, you're not allowing your body to take advantage of what it wants to do during exercise, which is tap into and metabolize fat, or you're certainly not allowing your body to do it at its full extent as much as it would like to do. Seth, what's different about the superstarch? How is this different than your traditional carbohydrate that you would fuel with prior to a workout?
So, the super starch is basically non-GMO corn, and but it's cooked. The whole difference is that it's cooked for over a day, roughly 40 hours, with just heat and water. There's no enzymes, there's no chemicals, but it's the way it's cooked allows it to break down slowly into the body, and it appears slowly in the bloodstream. So you're getting fresh energy into your body over time instead of that quick burst at once, and that's why we're all about maintaining your energy through maintaining your blood sugar. And people think about energy and they need a gel, they need something. I got to get something in my body before I work out. But we're really talking about a slow release into the body to sustain you, and that's even for the beginner who's doing a 30-minute workout. That might be someone doing a 30-minute body weight training workout. We're talking about fueling the body to have steady blood sugar, and we're 80 calories in a scoop. We're not some type of 300 calorie energy bar. We're talking about a very calorically controlled way to keep your blood sugar steady and maintain your energy. And the biggest thing a lot of people feel also is they're not hungry after they work out. Their blood sugar is steady, so their brain's not going, oh, sugar's low, got to eat again. And so many people are ravenous after a workout, and that's one of the first things they notice with UCAN is that they don't have that ravenous hunger.
Seth, one of the things also that for folks that are familiar with the glycemic index and how different carbohydrates, basically a measure of how different carbohydrates impact your blood sugar levels. I mean, one of the ways to certainly think about the super starch is that it's a low glycemic starch, but that's again not the only thing that's unique about it. Seth, you've said this to me a number of times, and I think it's a great way of putting it. But there's many foods that are low glycemic, like broccoli or raspberries that won't, basically by saying it's low glycemic, it means it won't cause a big rise in your blood sugar levels. But what is different about super starch from other low glycemic foods? Why is it such a superior energy source, and why is it different than other things that are also low glycemic?
Right. So instead of just being something that doesn't spike your blood sugar, we're something that breaks down over time, so we sustain you. We're giving you little bits of energy over time, really matching the rate your brain and your muscles need fuel. And if you look at this red line here, it's our end point. It's the fact that 2 hours later, your blood sugar is still steady. I mean, I tested my blood sugar, and again, we keep talking about blood sugar because no one's talking about it, right? What is blood sugar? It's simply a measure of the glucose, of the sugar in your bloodstream, and you want to keep it maintained. You don't want it to go in flux. You don't want to have it too high. You don't want to have it too low, which is really what a lot of the other products do. So my blood sugar was 93 milligrams per deciliter, and after testing it every half an hour, 3 hours later, I was 96 milligrams per deciliter. So I was so steady, and that was just being tested at rest, to start the day. And even during exercise, it's just so important. I think we don't realize that one of the things that happens when you start exercising, as you start warming up, if you're a runner, as your heart rate gets a little higher, if you're in the gym, you might be doing some calisthenic type warm up or a few minutes on the treadmill, is that your muscle cells actually, the receptors open up to want to take in the sugar in your bloodstream, to take in blood sugar, and you pull from your bloodstream. And that's why people can get low blood sugar within the first 15 to 30 minutes of a workout, especially if they're new to exercise or out of shape, because they pull from their bloodstream. So if you can, instead of getting low during that first 30 minutes, we are releasing over time, really helping you compensate and maintain your blood sugar. And I think so many people are unhappy when they exercise because your brain and your muscles actually they compete for the same fuel in your bloodstream, and your muscle cells are selfish and they suck up the glucose so they can use it for fuel, and your brain's left with nothing. And people don't enjoy exercise a lot of time because their brains aren't happy, because their brains aren't fueled, because their muscle cells are using up all the sugar.
So just a quick review on what the super starch is. Like Seth already talked about, it's the starting ingredient is ground up non-GMO cornstarch, and then we put it through a cooking process, just heat and water, no chemicals, no enzymes. The way it's cooked significantly changes the structure of the carbohydrate and causes it to break down much more slowly and steadily over time, giving it that steady release. So, I had a few questions leading into this from people wondering, does cornstarch, spike your blood sugar, or is cornstarch high glycemic? And the reason that the UCAN, the super starch, is going to be superior in terms of blood sugar and energy maintenance to regular cornstarch is because of the way it's cooked to yield the super starch. So we as a company have the worldwide patent on the cooking technology that we apply to this starch. So this is very, very different than just regular cornstarch that you can buy at the grocery store. And it's also an ingredient that's very unique to our product. So there's no other company or product that has anything like this carbohydrate in it. And that's what makes UCAN unique. And really, the origins of superstarch are kind of the story behind what it was developed for, Seth, which I'll let you tell is what makes the carbohydrate so unique. It's that it was created for a very specific purpose. What was that purpose?
Right, right. So we were meant, UCAN was originally meant for infants, that if they weren't fed every 2 hours, they wouldn't live. This was meant for life-threatening low blood sugar, which is why it can help people who are normal without this disease keep their blood sugar steady during the day. But here's a rare disease where they were trying tons of carbohydrate options, barleys, tapiocas, rices, and wheats. And after around 8 years of research, they came up with super starch. And Jonah, who you're looking at, has this, to maintain his blood sugar instead of having to wake up every 2 hours, and his parents had to wake up every 2 hours, and it was a life by the clock. And Jonah can now sleep all 8 hours throughout the night since it helps him keep his blood sugar steady at night. And now it really just accidentally got in the hands of some sports dietitians, and that's really what got pulled us into helping people who are active and into the sports nutrition market.
So that was really kind of, all that it was developed for originally. But as we realize, as we've been talking kind of about stable blood sugar and how it can benefit everybody, we realized that this can help athletes looking to maintain their energy for performance. This can help everyday individuals looking to maintain their energy throughout their workday, or even folks, as a weight loss tool for people that struggle with blood sugar issues and cravings throughout the day. We have a lot of folks, a lot of personal trainers at various gyms, one of the big ones being Lifetime Fitness across the country. We have personal trainers really recommending this super starch to their weight loss clients as a way to manage their blood sugar levels, allow them to better burn fat during their workouts, their daily workouts, and then also using it mid morning or in between meals as a tool to curb cravings and keep blood sugar stable. So that's the origins of the super starch, and we've kind of set the table in terms of why we should all care about blood sugar. So let's talk through a few of the products that we have, and specifically how to use them. And Alan and Dan, see both of your questions, and we will definitely address both them here just in a couple of minutes. But I wanted to start with our UCAN snack bars, which feature our super starch carbohydrate. And what you're actually looking at on the screen is the two newest flavors of the UCAN snack bars that we just launched recently. The Peach Passion, which we launched this week, and the Coffee Bean, which was launched a couple weeks ago. And these bars, Seth, I know these are something you're really excited about. Talk to the folks a little bit about, what's unique about the UCAN snack bars, and how they should think about implementing them as part of their daily diet or as part of an exercise program.
Right. So these bars, especially these two new flavors, they contain 15 grams of that key superstarch. It's the highest dose of superstarch we have in our bars, specifically the coffee and peach. So when you think about, daily workouts, you're going out for, you're going to the gym, you would have one bar simply on your way, and it's going to break down slowly for you. It's going to keep your blood sugar steady. I mean, I'm a big time, I do a lot of weightlifting, and I recently had a coffee bar just for, empty stomach in the morning, just had a bar, had some, probably on my way to the gym. I did a bunch of squatting and benching, and that was my workout, probably around a 45-minute workout. It was a pretty intense workout. And no, I really love the fact that, the bar just kept me going the entire time. It has the exact same effect. If anybody's used our powders, that coffee bar had the exact same effect as our super starch powder. I used to have just a scoop of our Cocoa Delight UCAN with 4 ounces of water for my morning workouts. And the big difference is that this has a higher dose of super starch. And the nice thing is that because of a little bit of the fiber, a little bit of the protein, a little bit of the fat, it helps kind of quiet down that morning hunger too. So very effective in that way. And so you're on the road. A lot of people might go to their local running store or to a CrossFit class, and the one thing you have is that you get stuck in traffic. I mean, if you keep a box of these bars in your car, if you're going to the gym in the evening, you can have a bar right before. You don't have to worry about fueling right before. It's always been an issue of how to time your food before an evening workout when you get busy during the workday. And it's just not enjoyable to do a workout when you're hungry and your blood sugar is dropping, your energy is low. It's a lot of the reason why people don't go to the gym in the afternoon is because that afternoon fatigue. And that UCAN snack bar can completely change the game for you. It's really the way it affects your brain during your exercise.
And there's a million different bars on the market, but what really stands out and makes this UCAN bar so unique is the super starch. So there's your kind of endurance type of bars, your Cliff bars and power bars, which are loaded with sugar, 20 grams of sugar, 18 grams of sugar. These UCAN bars either have 5 or 6 grams of sugar. So I think it's evident, with the comparison to the UCAN snack bars to some of those types of bars where it's just a fraction of the sugar, so you're not going to have that big spike and drop. You have other bars that are more protein based, right? Your bars with 18 or 20 grams of protein, whereas this bar has 4 grams of protein. This is much more of a steady energy bar than a muscle building protein bar. And one of the issues even with a lot of those protein bars, if they have done the right thing, which is reduce the amount of sugar in it, if it's primarily protein and minimal carbohydrate, then it's simply not going to give you that energy that you'll get from the UCAN bar, right? So protein's not a very effective energy source. And then you've got your other bars, like your Quest bars, which do have carbohydrate, but they use, primarily fiber as their main source of carbohydrate. Very little type of any other carbohydrate. Seth, how is super starch different than fiber in terms of an energy source?
So fiber is not absorbed, and because of how slow UCAN is to absorb, but it keeps you steady at the rate you need. It very much, in a way, acts, has the properties of a fiber, but it's absorbed as energy, since it's not going to spike your blood sugar, but maintain you over time. And we're if there's anyone listening, we're not trying to be an expensive way to get 20 grams of protein in your body. Um, the purpose of this bar is to be used before workouts or as a bridge between meals. And there's so many people that, mid morning, you have a healthy breakfast, but you get stuck in meetings, and then you don't know if the time you'll eat lunch is 12, 1, or 2, and UCAN's a way to just keep your energy up and power your day with steady blood sugar in between breakfast and lunch, especially. So you approach lunch with stability and stable blood sugar, and lunch can be the most evil meal of the day if your blood sugar is low, and that can really wreck your energy levels for the afternoon. So we're about maintaining you during the day.
And yeah, I think just the closing point on the bars, the really, again, to reiterate, what's so unique and so cool about these bars is the fact that it has the super starch in it, and that's going to be something that really sets it apart from every other bar on the market. And beyond these two bars, the coffee and the peach bars you're seeing that use a vegan protein blend. There's also three other bar flavors: the cinnamon chocolate and the chocolate peanut butter, which are kind of our original UCAN bars. And so those also contain the super starch for steady blood sugar. But to Seth's point, those bars contain slightly less of the super starch, between 10 and 13 grams, where these two new bars with the vegan protein contain 15 grams of the super starch. So again, to reiterate what Seth said, for those that are familiar with the UCAN powders and that are using a scoop of our powders before an hour workout, these bars, especially the new ones, can last you 60 to 90 minutes in the context of exercise, basically the equivalent from an energy standpoint to a scoop of our UCAN powder. Outside of exercise, the great thing about these bars is, they can really help maintain your blood sugar for, up to 3 hours. So, really, they're going to give you that nice, steady energy effect for a long period of time. And as you can see on the screen, all the bars are lower in sugar, compared to most bars on the market, only 5 to 6 grams of sugar, 170 to 190 calories per bar. So they really work great as a snack. And before, an evening workout of 30 or 45 minutes, even half a bar, will go a long way and have a really nice effect. Let's talk a little bit about the other UCAN products, the UCAN drink mix, or we just call it UCAN. That's kind of the original product, which is the super starch in powdered form. And this this is something that it's shake type of consistency. You want to shake it up really well with 8 to 12 ounces of cold water. That's not any type of scientific measurement. That's just what we found tastes the best for most people. But you can feel free to modify that as you see fit. It won't change how the product works. But Seth, how are people, most frequently using this UCAN, the UCAN drink mix, and how do you recommend they use the product?
So people, who want the shake are again having a scoop before an hour workout, and anybody who's doing anything longer, there's basically refueling with a scoop every hour for those folks who are going on a longer run, a longer bike ride. Um, High school athletes are having a scoop or two before that 2 hour practice. The fact is that you have a scoop and a half or so of UCAN before a high school practice. This will last you all 2 hours. So there's when coach ups the intensity the last half an hour of practice, your blood sugar is maintained and you can power through it. And that's the beauty of UCAN, especially for the high school athlete or the collegiate athlete. Um, and then besides really before workouts and competition, the fact is that, again, just like the bars, folks are adding UCAN to their own meal replacement shakes, to a protein shake. They're adding it to Greek yogurt for breakfast. They're using it really as the carbohydrate portion of a shake or meal. And again, it's all about maintaining your energy during the day. And some folks just have a scoop of our tropical orange UCAN at 3 o'clock, um, as a way, instead of having that granola bar, that stress-based food in the afternoon, to keep their energy up as they approach the end of the day, and they don't go into dinner with that low blood sugar feeling that causes them to overeat. So it's really very very much being used in between meals or as part of a meal to maintain their energy.
In the context of workouts, the way we like to talk about this, the UCAN drink mix, is really thinking of it as that pre-exercise snack, or even, calling it liquid food. This is not a sports drink that you're nursing and sipping on slowly as you're exercising. This is really something that you're having, instead of your cereal that's carbohydrate based, or your banana or your apple. The UCAN drink mix is really that steady energy carbohydrate that you can have prior to exercise. And what's so powerful, I was just presenting to a bunch of personal trainers this afternoon, and we were talking about how a lot of their morning boot camp clients, really struggle with energy because they come into their workouts not eating anything. They just, because it's early in the morning, they don't want to wake up early and eat some kind of solid food. And where they really have seen the application for UCAN is because this carbohydrate and product digests so easily. It doesn't sit heavy in your stomach. A lot of those people are just having a scoop of UCAN prior to a morning workout. They're feeling nice and consistent energy throughout their exercise class. But then, like Seth mentioned off the top, that effect of feeling that steadiness, even when they're done exercising, is very, very powerful. That's what's allowing them to go home and, eat a much more sensible and balanced breakfast rather than just being, pulling into wherever and grabbing a bagel or grabbing an egg McMuffin or something that's, more fast acting carbohydrate rich. We had a question from Dan, pertaining specifically to like the dosage and the frequency of use. So there are two different serving sizes. The original format that the UCAN powders came in were in single serve packets, and that's roughly 120 to 130 calorie serving of our super starch. It's got added electrolytes as well, and contains about 30 grams of the carbohydrate. So we generally think about a packet, that 120 to 130 calorie serving, being good for about 90 minutes to 2 hours of steady energy during exercise. So you would drink this, 30 to 60 minutes prior to your workout. And then once you start exercising, this is going to last you about 90 minutes to 2 hours. Now, I think Dan's specific question was, if I'm doing something longer, um, do I need to take more of it during exercise? And the answer, Dan, and to everybody wondering that, is absolutely yes. So, the same exact product that you're taking pre-exercise can also be used during exercise as well. So if you're using the packet serving size, we're going to recommend you take in a packet 30 minutes before, and then once you start exercising, you take in a packet every 90 minutes. So if you're an Ironman athlete, if you're a marathoner, if you're out there for multiple hours, then it's a packet 90 minutes in, a packet at the 3 hour mark, a packet at the 4.5 hour mark, so on and so on and so on. Like I mentioned, this is not something that you're sipping on slowly. It's starchy in texture. It's not a hydration product. You're not going to sip it and say, this is refreshing. This is something that you're really consuming, relatively quickly. So if you're running, you try to consume it over the course of a mile or over the course of 5 or 10 minutes. Similar if you're cycling, the same type of thing. And that's where a lot of people that are using the product during exercise are actually mixing it up much thicker. So, we talked about the idea that it's 8 to 12 ounces of water per serving, but that's, simply our general recommendations based on taste. During exercise, we have a lot of people doing it with 3 to 4 ounces of water, rather than the full amount, just so they can consume it quickly during exercise. And then you can just sip on water in between your doses of UCAN. In terms of the serving size on the tubs, that's about 2/3 of the serving size of a packet. So a scoop and a half from a tub equals a packet. A scoop is roughly 80 calories. It's about 20 grams of the super starch. And we talk about a scoop as being good for an hour. So the packet's good for 90 minutes. The scoop's good for about an hour. So if you simply would like to take in less at a time and fuel more frequently, that's perfectly fine. We have many, many folks that are doing a scoop before. And then if you're doing longer workouts, you simply do a scoop every hour. And, there's really no system that seems to be better than the other. It really seems to be personal preference, whether you'd like to take in more at once and then extend the intervals of fueling, or whether you want to take in less at once and then fuel with it more frequently. So that's the general way to think about and to use the UCAN drink mix. And that comes in a variety of flavors: a lemonade, cranberry, pomegranate, and orange, which is the most popular, a cinnamon, and then it's not here on the screen, but our new cocoa flavor is also extremely popular. So if you guys haven't tried all the flavors and we've offered you any new info here about how to use the product, certainly the orange or the cocoa would be great bets in terms of what's most popular from a taste standpoint. When we talk about utilizing UCAN pre-exercise, really the analogy that describes it so perfectly well is a hybrid car. So UCAN allows your body to utilize and access two fuel sources. You're getting a steady release of carbohydrate from UCAN, from the super starch, which is keeping your energy levels steady. But because we're not spiking you and because we're not forcing you to consume something every 15 minutes, every 20 minutes, some type of sugar, we're not messing with your body's ability to metabolize and burn fat for fuel. So UCAN is not some type of supplement or some, magic fat burner that's doing certain things with the enzymes in your body. It's really just metabolically speaking, not screwing up what your body is trying to do during exercise, which is burn fat. And that's something that so many of the products out there are guilty of doing, which is screwing up what your body is trying to achieve metabolically speaking. Seth, anything else you want to add to this point in terms of utilizing UCAN for workouts, or do you think we've covered most of it?
No, definitely. I mean, you covered perfectly, Varn. But I think the adaptation to exercise is the ability to burn fat. And if you're taking in lots of sugar, you're not getting the full use of it. So that's what UCAN is doing. It's slowly releasing while you can also access and burn fat for fuel, which is what's ideal.
And while we're on the subject of pre-exercise nutrition, Brett asks a question: would you recommend using UCAN powder in a fruit smoothie pre-workout? Seth, if you are mixing UCAN in smoothies, and we'll talk about the post-workout application next, but from a pre-workout standpoint, if you are mixing UCAN into a smoothie, what should you focus on in order to have the product work best?
Yeah, I mean, if before a workout, just because if it's right before a workout, fruit can bother the stomach. If you're someone who can tolerate it, just keep it to a smaller serving, half a cup of berries, maybe at most a half a banana. You don't want to do too much to cause a rise, but a small amount's okay. You want to maybe keep the sugars, under 5 or 6 grams. So that's where half a serving is okay, but you don't really need it. You just don't need to add more to this. Keep it simple with just a scoop of UCAN, and you'll be fine. But if you want to add fruit, just do half a cup.
Exactly. And then the reasoning there, Brett, again, like Seth was talking about, is really we're trying to keep the sugar content low in terms of what we mix with UCAN. Because remember, the whole purpose of UCAN is to keep your blood sugar levels very steady. If you start introducing, different things that are going to raise your blood sugar, you just want to be careful about how much of those other ingredients you're adding. And then, UCAN is a carbohydrate. The superstarch is a carbohydrate. So in terms of adding the fruit, if the thought process behind the fruit is to give you that additional energy. Like Seth mentioned, it's really not necessary because you're utilizing UCAN as a carbohydrate. But we do have people that like to, add a small portion of a banana or a small handful of berries, more from a taste standpoint. So, totally understandable, and that's perfectly fine. Let's talk about the UCAN with protein, Seth. So this is also a super starch based powder, just like the other UCAN drink mixes. What differs about the UCAN with protein, and how can people think about using this product?
I mean, the first thing is if you got someone who's waking up in the morning that, has that morning hunger, the added protein can curb hunger in the stomach while the UCAN keeps you steady and curbs hunger in the brain and provides the energy. That's really for people that can tolerate protein before workout, but this is really a way to recover without sugar. That's the biggest thing is that you don't need a bunch of, a load of excess carbohydrate post-workout to recover. You just got to keep your blood sugar steady again. And that's where people, if you're going out for an hour workout, you have a scoop of our Cocoa Delight UCAN before and a scoop of our vanilla cream protein enhanced afterward. That's your pre and post-workout strategy. And it's very simple in that way. If you're a triathlete, you're a cyclist, and you want to curb that belly hunger, again, you can alternate or add the protein enhanced UCAN while you're on the road. And then, excuse me, the other key thing is I know a lot of folks, the packets, with added protein, people are actually at 3 o'clock in the afternoon. They're using this as a meal replacement shake or a steady energy snack during the day. They take a packet of UCAN blender bottle and they have it at 3 o'clock in the afternoon. Some people are having a packet of our UCAN protein enhanced and a bar on the side. It's just more of that kind of like steady energy snack combination, and they're feeling good throughout the afternoon, and they're not having that hunger toward the end of the day. Yeah, so and it actually tastes pretty good having a packet of our vanilla cream with some ice, and then having a new UCAN snack bar on the side. I do that a lot actually during the day too.
And Seth, that's one of the things you raised. Whether it's in the middle of the afternoon or even after a workout, that ability to sustain your blood sugar can really help tide you over for a couple hours before you feel like you have to go have a meal in you. And I just like to use this example because I think even though you look at somebody like Meb Keflezighi on the screen, who's an elite athlete and He's about to run the marathon in the Olympics here next weekend. He's been using UCAN for many, many years, actually, before we even had products. We were sending Meb just the super starch powder in Ziploc baggies so he could kind of test it out back in 2009. But one of the big things for Meb is after all of his hard workouts, utilizing the UCAN with protein, it really helps keep him satiated until his next meal. So, Meb training at that very elite level after a tough 2 hour workout, he has a variety of things that he needs to do in terms of stretching, ice baths, drills. He might get a massage. He might go into the gym and lift some weights for a couple hours or do some kind of, stability exercises. So for him, he gets the dual benefit immediately after a tough run when he has the UCAN with protein. He's getting the protein to help his muscles recover, but the super starch is keeping his blood sugar steady. So, as you read the quote with Meb, he says it's been a game changer with recovery. I don't feel the soreness or the aches and pains after a hard run, and it allows me to recover so I can train hard consistently. I can go a few hours before I have to eat. But, if you put Meb aside, I mean, even if we look at all of us and how this kind of applies to us, so many folks are trying to fit in workouts around busy schedules. You might be trying to, work out on the weekend in between obligations with your family or your kids. You might work out after work and then have to come home and prepare dinner for the family. So that ability to sustain your blood sugar and sustain your energy levels and be able to take in a recovery fuel that can help tide you over so you're not ravenous immediately after a meal, that's so applicable for so many of us, quote unquote, regular folks that are trying to fit in exercise in the midst of a host of other daily activities. And that's what makes this so different than, your traditional carb protein drinks or something like chocolate milk with 20 or 25 grams of sugar. With chocolate milk, sure, you'll get the protein to help your muscles, but if you get that big spike and drop in your blood sugar levels, 30 or 45 minutes after you drink it, you're going to be ravenous. And with the UCAN, you simply don't feel that. So really, really unique in that way. And that's, really an excellent application of the UCAN with protein, both for recovery as well as for satiety and to help manage those cravings after a tough workout. Seth, let's chat a little bit about our only product without superstarch. This is the last of the UCAN products that we'll talk about, and then we'll pound through the any other questions that we have. So the UCAN Hydrate, Seth, what's the application of this product?
I mean, we were forced to create this product is really how it started. I mean, I was answering all of our UCAN questions as our dietitian, and I couldn't. And people were saying, okay, so if UCAN is great for that workout, that run, that ride, what do I do for hydration? What do you recommend? And certain tablets out there, they had sodium benzoate in them and artificial preservatives. Couldn't find anything to recommend to our customers. Some products had very little sodium, too much potassium, forms of magnesium like magnesium oxide, which isn't absorbed well, whereas in a lot of the tablet products. Um, so we really worked with the Olympic dietitian Bob Seebahar and came up with a ratio of electrolytes that not only matches what you lose when you sweat, but for those endurance athletes out there especially, it's interesting. You only lose a small amount of magnesium when you sweat. And magnesium is basically, the agent that helps you with all the metabolic processes related to burning energy, and it's how you convert your food into ATP, and which is your energy source, and it's how it helps with metabolic processes of burning energy. And because you're always exercising, you're actually a lot of, I think the research shows that 70 to 80% of endurance athletes especially are magnesium deficient. But you only lose a small amount when you sweat. So a lot of electrolyte companies only put a small amount in their products, maybe 2 milligrams, 7 milligrams, maybe up to 25 at most, trying to just match that perfect ratio. But we really said, you know what? We want to help our athletes with their cellular levels, with what they're utilizing when they're burning energy. And we made our magnesium and UCAN Hydrate 50 milligrams to really help with sustaining you from a mineral standpoint. So there's no artificial preservatives. It's got an ideal ratio of 300 milligrams of sodium per serving, 100 milligrams of potassium. It's got some calcium at 15 milligrams, but again, the magnesium is 50 milligrams, and that's really going to help those folks who are training hard, whether you're getting ready for a fall marathon. It's really going to be the key to mineral support. And that's really the hydrate. You have a serving Um, one serving every hour if you're going over an hour of exercise, especially during Ironman training, cycling, or marathon training.
And the hydrate product, just I think this is evident from what Seth said, but this is really something that's designed to be sipped on in between your doses of the UCAN fuel. So the UCAN drink mixes with the super starch in it, also contain electrolytes, but this just has additional electrolytes if you're going really long, if you're a heavy sweater, if you're training in the heat, and this product is it's very thin and watery in consistency. The powder dissolves in water. It's a very very refreshing, and always kind of the first thing to go when we sample it, and have it nice and cold at various events. So this is really something that you'll enjoy sipping on during exercise from a taste standpoint, and then very very beneficial product in terms of the quantities of electrolytes and the different ratios of electrolytes that Seth just described. So that gives you kind of an overview of everything we've got from a product standpoint and the general theory behind how to use it. The graphic we've got up on the screen, I'll kind of reiterate some of the points that we just discussed in terms of the various applications of UCAN. But Seth, let's take one or two questions before signing off. So Alan has a specific question, and Alan, appreciate you waiting to get this answered here. I know you asked this right off the front. So Alan says, I'm a type 2 diabetic and looking to use your product in an upcoming half Ironman. I was told about your product from an Ironman trainer. I would like to learn how to use it during the Ironman event along with other foods. So Seth, let's first talk about the Ironman side of things, and then I'd also like you just to briefly share, some of the research we have specifically for type 2 diabetics with this product. But from an Ironman standpoint, and this kind of applies whether you're an Ironman triathlete or you're a marathoner, generally speaking, what are your recommendations for how to use the product for a long distance endurance event? And if we're talking about a half Ironman, something that could last 5, 6, 7 hours.
Right. So whether you have type 2 diabetes, we can't make medical claims for folks with diabetes, but whether you are healthy or you have blood sugar issues, um, the best thing to do for a race day or an Ironman situation is you start off, and I'll speak in terms of the tubs, because if you're really training for Ironman, you're going to end up buying our tubs simply because you'll be using UCAN a lot, and you'll probably have 2 scoops before you get 30 minutes before the race starts, and then after that it's simply a serving every 60 to 90 minutes. So probably after the swim, after you're done with it, and right as you're getting on the bike, you'll have another serving of UCAN, and you'll have a scoop. And I'd say you can either have a scoop to a scoop and a half, depending on your body size, every 60 to 90 minutes. Some people do it every 2 hours, but you got to kind of trial it out, because depending on the shape you're in, the better in shape you are, usually the longer you can have in between UCAN servings. And some people are, now that we have our 15-gram serving coffee and peach bars, they might alternate. They might have the UCAN snack bars on the bike, and then have a serving of the powder before the run, or and that's really what they're so that you're able to kind of alternate with our products. But knowing you could have a serving of UCAN every hour to hour and a half, whether it's from one of our bars or from our powder. And then I would probably sip on our UCAN hydrate, especially on the bike. I know some people don't want to carry things when they run, but definitely on the bike, sip on the hydrate to get your electrolytes in before you get through to the run. Well, you can always use a fuel belt bottle too. And if anybody wants to be creative, you could always, that are looking to make UCAN into its own kind of premixed fuel and gel, you could buy a resealable baby pouch on Amazon, put a scoop of UCAN in there, a little bit of water, and make your own gel out of it. And a lot of customers on Facebook being pretty creative with UCAN.
And yes, that's a good point. And while I just add a little bit to that question, I will just flip to the slide showing folks how people are actually making the UCAN gel with the product. But Alan, just another point for Alan and for everybody else listening is the biggest mistake people will make when fueling with UCAN for endurance, why they may not have a good experience the first time, is trying to match calorie for calorie UCAN with other nutrition. So if you're a hammer user and you're used to taking 300 calories of hammer products an hour, and then you start using UCAN, I was talking to a woman that started trying to take 300 calories of UCAN per hour and just didn't have a good experience. And so that's one of the biggest things I really, really strongly recommend that you follow our recommendations and not what other products are telling you or what you're kind of traditionally reading in terms of the protocols for sugar-based fuels, because this is a very, very different type of carbohydrate, and it almost needs its own set of recommendations, which we're evolving, with research and customer feedback. But what we've seen work best is exactly what Seth detailed. A scoop, call it a scoop every hour or a scoop and a half every 90 minutes. And so you're either going with that roughly 80 calories per hour or 120 calories every 90 minutes. And that may seem on the low end, but we just recommend that you give that approach a try, and then you can always adjust the amount you're taking in up or down as needed. The other thing from a practical standpoint that most triathletes will do is if you're doing a half Ironman event, they'll concentrate all of their UCAN fuel in one bottle. So if you're going to take, 3 scoops over the course of 3 hours on the bike, you could have all those scoops mixed up into one bottle. And then every hour you're simply drinking a third of that bottle. And then you have your hydration separate. So you can sip on your water or sip on your electrolytes on an as-need basis. In terms of other foods that mix well with UCAN, Alan, I know that was part of your question and something that a lot of people ask. Again, we just recommend staying away from combining UCAN with too many sugars. So don't take UCAN before the race and then start doing a gel every 30 minutes. It's simply not necessary, and it won't allow you to get the best effect out of UCAN. Now, if you're out there for a long event and you tend to get hungry, certainly you could mix in our UCAN snack bars in between doses of the powder. Just cut them up into pieces and chomp on them. Other low sugar bars could be good options to kind of do the same thing with. If the carbohydrate, protein, and fat is balanced, that'll help with satiety. We have people using the squeezable nut butter types of packets in between doses of UCAN. Again, the idea is to get some protein and fat in to help curb hunger. And then you could also experiment with using our UCAN with protein drink mix. So we have some folks doing Ironman events that maybe every other dose of UCAN will be the UCAN with protein, or they might do, 2 scoops of the vanilla UCAN with protein and 2 scoops of orange UCAN in one bottle. You kind of get like a creamsicle type of flavor, and then every 60 to 90 minutes when you're taking your appropriate serving, you're getting, a few grams of protein, 6 or 7 grams of protein each time, and that'll help curb hunger. Something you want to play around with in your training, because different people react differently to ingesting protein during exercise. But, we've seen that strategy and that approach work for a lot of folks. And then as you can see here on the screen with the UCAN gel, all we're really talking about is simply mixing the superstarch powder with less water, so it's only a gel in terms of consistency, not in terms of entering your system very quickly and spiking your blood sugar. So we call it a gel for that reason. And people like this because it's easy to carry on the run. You can put it in a Ziploc baggie. You can carry it in a small soft flask and then just, ingest it all at once. Seth, maybe just to close us out, as I know certainly without making any medical claims, what can you say about UCAN and kind of the future of UCAN in terms of for diabetes? What's currently ongoing? What has kind of already been shown, and how do you suggest folks think about it?
Yeah, UCAN's been tested in a formula of 15 grams of our superstarch, similar serving size in one of our bars, with 15 grams of protein, and it's been tested actually in people with pre-diabetes and type 2 diabetes, showing how it balances blood sugar actually compared to oatmeal. And then recently there was a press release on 108 overweight subjects with uncontrolled diabetes, showing significant showing decreases in A1C, a measure of of glucose in the blood, decreasing around 0.65. I know a lot of people with type 2 diabetes their goal is to reduce their A1C levels because pre-diabetes is above 5.5%. And again, a lot of our customers come to us from UCAN after years of using, whether it's maltodextrin-based products or GUs, or having, it's funny. You go into a running store or a triathlon store, it's almost all fast-acting, rapid energy products, but they don't say we spike blood sugar. They don't say that, but they say rapid energy, and a lot of folks think that this is what I got to do to get energy. But as people are more worried about, sugar, I mean, some of the new bars coming out there, although they might have dates in them, they have 18 grams of sugar in a serving. So we really have to be careful of our sugar intakes because of what's going to happen in a year from now. You don't want to, you don't want to be trying to improve your health with exercise or just trying to get in good shape, and then you're taking in all this sugar. Yeah, and so UCAN has been, we can't make claims, but it's been shown that it can help with blood sugar management and in people with diabetes. And the main thing is that we really, the more, if you've been inactive and you're just getting started with exercise, you hear people say things like, oh, you don't need anything before an hour run or an hour workout, just get out there. And fact is that if you've been out of shape, your stored fuel content, actually your muscle glycogen is very low, and you'll actually use a lot of, you'll burn through your stored fuel very quickly, and that's why you can fatigue early. So we also got to be careful of what a veteran runner or a veteran triathlete tells a new person, because it's all about managing your blood sugar when it comes down to it, and you can't just go out for a run or out for a workout when you haven't done it in 20 years. And it's one of the reasons why some of the stores we speak to, the attrition rate is really high on marathon programs sometimes, because people, oh, they get into it, but their fueling isn't right, and they fatigue early, and they like, I don't know if I can do this. And with UCAN, you can do it.
Seth, that should have been the closing line of the session today because it was too poetic. But I do need to you said a bunch of things that triggered a few thoughts in my head. So I just want to piggyback off a couple of things you said. I think the biggest disconnect that we see so frequently with a lot of endurance athletes is they enter the sport with the desire to improve health and fitness, and they're trying to clean up their overall diet and get rid of the sugars and processed foods. And then when they start training for an event, suddenly all the options are sugar based. And like Seth was saying, the whole reason we went through this discussion around blood sugar is because this whole idea of maltodextrin in products, it's really kind of misleading a lot of people because you'll flip around a maltodextrin gel and you'll see that there's very little sugar in it because maltodextrin isn't classified as a sugar on the ingredient label. But when you understand the impact on blood sugar, you'll see maltodextrin it's a sugar. That's the way it impacts your blood sugar. It enters your system very quickly, and it has all the negative implications of over consuming sugar, and so people are really wreaking havoc on their insides. And it's I've talked to a number of endurance athletes who, from the outside, will look extremely physically fit, but then when they get some blood work done or pop the hood and figure out what's going on inside, they can see that because of these issues that you put your blood sugar through, it can really set you up for a lot of problems down the road in terms of developing prediabetes or metabolic syndrome. And this isn't meant to, this isn't meant to be scare tactics or anything like that, but this is just the reality of what so many people are facing, and especially folks that are looking for longevity in the sport. As they get older, your body gets can become a lot more sensitive to these blood sugar swings and this overconsumption of sugar. So what I feel and what we all feel is so unique about UCAN, specifically, I guess, in the context of endurance sports, is we are really the only product that, from an energy standpoint, bridges that gap between endurance and fitness. You have other products that might be just for hydration that don't have sugar but aren't going to give you energy. But out of the fuel sources there, if you are an endurance athlete that cares about body composition and cares about your long-term health and fitness, then UCAN is an incredibly powerful tool to help you achieve those goals. And that's how we talk about UCAN. We really talk about it as a tool to help manage your energy, to help manage your hunger. It's really something that's supporting what your body wants to do rather than fighting it. And that's what so many endurance athletes have found to be so powerful with the product. So with that, Seth, anything you'd like to add before we sign off for the evening? Anything we missed, or anything that you want to reiterate?
No, I'm just glad if anybody lives in Georgia, glad we got a peach bar for you.
Absolutely, that peach bar is a wonderful tasting bar. So stay tuned. This we will be sending out a special offer specifically for that peach bar coming out of this webinar. You'll get that in your email, and we'll also be sending out a full recording of this webinar to all you folks via email as well. So if we can certainly continue the conversation. That email will be coming directly from me, so you can just feel free to hit reply to that and chat directly with me if you have any further questions about the product or how to get the most out of UCAN. But with that, just really want to thank everybody for joining us today. Some great questions as always. Much appreciated to everybody who was on here and participated. And Seth, always good doing this with you. Let's do it again soon.
All right, see you Monday, Varn.
All righty. Sounds good, everybody. Well, have a great day. Really enjoyed this conversation, and we will talk to you guys down the road. Thank you so much.
Thank you.